Hello and welcome to Movie Battlegrounds. Today we have two combatants entering the ring, one leaving the ring with a victory. Let's introduce them right off the bat so that way we're not wasting any time. Let's introduce Troy first. Troy, tell us a little bit about yourself, man.
I hail from the great city of Boston, or Boston-ish, Massachusetts, as I like to say, the greater Boston area, if you will. But work in customer service most of my life. Most of my spare time spent too much time watching movies and Schmodown and lots of other great YouTube content. Probably too much time. I need to get outside more.
All right, Troy admitting that he needs a little more sun in his life.
Yep.
Grant, I have a feeling that Grant, you don't need that problem. You don't have that problem. So Grant, tell us a little bit about yourself, sir.
Hi, my name's Grant. I'm in our. Oh, sorry, wrong meeting. No, I'm Grant.
Hi, Grant.
Hi everyone. Oh, I got a new chip. Sweet. No, I'm really excited to wet my feet in this, and let's see if I can remember everything I knew about debating from when I was doing it a few years back. Could be fun. I don't know much about my opponent. He could be a wizard. I mean, he's got the beard for it, so that's quite on the cards. But yeah, I'm pretty excited. This should be fun, and yeah, I don't have an issue with getting to not enough sun. You know, I live in an island that is 95% desert. I mean, our state's in 99% drought at the moment, but it's cold. Hence, I'm wearing this.
All right, nice introductions from both these gentlemen. Not really attacking each other, so that's always nice. I'm gonna introduce my first judge, and Caleb, go ahead and introduce yourself, good sir.
Hi, I'm Caleb, also known as Little Boat, also known as MC Scat Cat when I do my 8 Mile thing in the underground studios. Yeah, bye.
All right, keeping it short and sweet from Little Boat. Sean, you're up next, buddy. Go ahead and tell us a little about yourself.
My name's Sean. I'm from Canada. I really love movie trivia and debate, and I really can't wait to see these two compete. I have no vested interest in either of them.
Well, that sounds like
Same here.
Sounds like a pretty good plan. All right, so let's explain the rounds how they go. You get 3 rounds that you're going to go ahead and debate. That's split up into 3 sections: 90-second opener, 5-minute total debate, and then a 60-second rebuttal. And if we get to the speed round, I'll explain that when we get there. So let's get this going with the first question. Which actor portrayed the same character better? Is the first question. And, we're going to go with Troy first. Troy, when you start talking, you got 90 seconds on the clock.
Sean Connery, the original, the best there ever was, probably the best there ever will be. He had it all. From the moment you first see him sitting at the casino table, you want to know more about him. The second he's talking, he's gambling, he has the charm. You just want to watch more of him. You want to get more of him. And luckily we got a lot of them. And he's consistent through the beginning to the end. He's just consistently what you're looking for. He has the action chops as much as the action was in those decades, the little easier karate and judo chops. But he has the action. He has the commanding, the lead actor quality you look for. He can really just do it all. Thinking back to Dr. No, the action scenes, like I said, are a little outdated, but it's more about him. The amount of shit. Oh fuck. All right, I guess I'm done for now because I need some time to regroup here.
All right. And we're moving over to Grant. Grant, you got 1:30 on the clock when you start talking. Go ahead, sir.
All right, gentlemen, I want to cast your minds back to the mid-90s. We hadn't had a decent Bond film for quite a while, and while Connery is definitely one of the more iconic one, as was previously stated, he's a bit dated. I'm talking about this cool, this suave, the kick-ass Pierce Brosnan. Pierce Brosnan is the quintessential James Bond. He takes little pieces of every single other Bond that's ever existed, takes their qualities, and he turns it into his own thing. He rejuvenated the entire Bond franchise. We wouldn't be having any of the Bonds now if it wasn't for that rejuvenation in the mid-90s of it. If you were to have a wit off between him and Roger Moore, the guy who was considered one of the best, Pierce Brosnan would still win. He transcends what it meant to be James Bond, not only on the screen, in the comics, in the video games, which, by the way, is still the number one Nintendo 64 game of that year and the year after. There is nothing I can say about Pierce Brosnan that is bad. He looks good. His cast of women was definitely some of the more attractive. That's for sure. He had the ability to do the action, and while, as was already stated, the action was a little bit dated in the other one, the action in Pierce Brosnan's movies still hold up today. Even the terrible, terrible one-liners, you look back on them now, not with disgust, but with fondness. That's the reason why I have Pierce Brosnan as...
All right, guys. So what we're going to move to next is the 5-minute debate round. You guys both have the ability to extend the time by 1 minute. If you chose to do so, you do it before the 5-minute bell starts. So you're going to let me know now if you want to. But if not, then we're going to move on to the 5 minutes. I'll take both your silence as we're moving on to 5 minutes. So the first person to start is when the timer starts.
All right, well, Connery was basically muscle with a little bit of suaveness. You get Brosnan, who was able to combine all elements of, as I said in previous, all elements of the other one. He could walk up to someone and knock him out with a single punch. Also, he'd give him a slap and then knock him down with a quick, witty retort. He had the suave and sophistication that hadn't been seen from the other ones. While Connery looked cool and suave at the time, it doesn't hold up. Brosnan looking in this, yeah, sure, it's 25, 26 years since he first started doing it. The way in which he looks still looks good to this day. There's nothing about what he does or says that has aged badly when it comes to the way in which he's treatment of women. Sure, he's a slut, he's a womanizer, but that's a James Bond character. All of them have been that way.
I think the problem with Brosnan, like you said, is that it is a little bit of everything, but it's a little too much of everything. He's not his own Bond. He's a little bit too much of everything. It's got the campiness of Roger Moore, but he doesn't really break through as anything that's his own. A lot of the suaveness, you have the suaveness originally. You said he wasn't the first one to bring it. Like I said, from the moment you see Sean Connery, that's what he's about, fitting the suit, whether it's the situation, whether it's in the casino or in the back dealings of a restaurant or in a fight or making lines to the villain in a hopeless situation. He has it from the beginning. Brosnan takes a little bit of that, takes a little bit of campiness of Roger Moore, takes a little bit of his Remington Steele experience, and he doesn't really have anything that's his own. And the quippiness, sure, it's there, but it doesn't have the same effect when it's with the camp. He doesn't have the same serious. It's not. I don't think it works as well as the seriousness of the earlier movies.
Well, you say he's got a multitude of things. That is his thing. He is the ultimate jack of all trades. That is what James Bond is. James Bond isn't perfect at one thing. He combines everything. He's a great runner. He's a great athlete. Pierce Brosnan is that when it comes to his acting chops. He can turn it on from being emotional, and he can turn it on from being completely angry. His transformation when he was held prisoner for 4 years is something that you would never seen in any other Bond. He was dejected, and you saw the way in which he worked up there. Connery was one note. He was always, I'm always cool, I'm always suave. He had that. Brosnan had the layers from each movie. He was a different character, but the same character at the same time. And you're saying he didn't have essentially like the presence or anything. That they created a game based off his character, off his interpretation of the character that sold over 5.5 million copies, where the one that they did over 10 years later in Connery's likeness only sold 227,000 copies in the height of games being sold. So based purely and simply on his own character and how in which he portrayed it, the market was there for people to do it. Some people might go because he was the first, he was the best, because once you're the first, nothing can change that. But Brosnan had the ability to look at every single other Bond, pick what worked, turn them into the one entire package and do it. It was the reason why when Daniel Craig was first cut, there was such a disjoint, because so many people grew up and believed that Pierce Brosnan is their Bond.
Well, that's what makes it easier, is that he had it there, as opposed to Bond, who really, Sean Connery, who crafted his own Bond from the beginning, without the other influences, working, I was going to say from the books, but not really as so much.
Including
but
all
in
of
the
his,
video game,
including all
the
of his
video game
mistakes as well.
sales, the video game sales don't have anything to do with it, especially just their likeness from Connery to Pierce Brosnan. If anybody's played both games, no, that has nothing to do with it. And GoldenEye is a far superior game by itself. That doesn't have to do with Pierce Brosnan. They didn't
No, it
make
has to do with
GoldenEye just because of Pierce
his face was on the
Brosnan.
cover. He was marketed as a Pierce Brosnan game. Pierce Brosnan was the thing that was selling it. He was the Bond that everyone knew and loved. That was,
It was
the
a
reason why
shooter.
it
It's one of the
sold well.
best FPS games of all time, especially
Before,
in that
before,
era
it,
on the
before it even come
N64.
out. It's
That doesn't have
pre-sale-
anything to do with
it's
Pierce
pre-sales and
Brosnan's
all that.
performance. They didn't say we need to make a video game because of Pierce Brosnan's performance as James Bond.
No,
I mean,
but
it's-
well, actually, exactly what it is. You don't make a game off a character that's a terrible performance. It's the reason why everyone's walking around now playing the Jar Jar Binks game. You know,
Is there even a
you
Jar Jar
base-
Binks game?
exactly. That's the point. There isn't one, because you don't base games off characters that don't work. His portrayal of it was so good that it transcended the movies. As I said, he was the first one to have a full-fledged comic in it. He's the one that has the best-selling game out of it. His character and his portrayal transcended the silver screen.
I wouldn't say he transcended it just because GoldenEye became a successful video game. If anything, Sean Connery had the better
Three.
transcendence or transition out of the career. He had a better
Time.
career after it. He made the
Time.
most of it.
All right, guys. Since we started with Troy, we're going to go ahead and give Grant the ability to start off first for his closing argument. Grant, whenever you're ready.
Pierce Brosnan, as I said, is the quintessential. There is a line and a saying in a movie called A License to Kill. Pierce Brosnan killed over 405 people in his entire franchise. He had the license to kill and he used it, while Sean Connery ended up killing 33. With the disaster that happened in the 80s with Dalton, which we're not going to talk about, Brosnan re-injuvenated James Bond, made it big for the masses again. Everyone that saw those movies liked it. Most people's first Bonds are either Connery or Brosnan. There's no in between. I agree, he's great, but he's nowhere near as good as that. And when it comes to it, Sean Connery may have only lived twice, but in both lives, he was destroyed by Pierce Brosnan.
All right. Kept it going with 17 seconds on the clock. And Troy, whenever you're ready, you got a minute on the clock, good sir.
He wasn't destroyed by Sean Connery. There's a reason there's still an argument. And it's not just because Sean Connery was the first. It's because, like I said, he had it all. And one of the reasons he did it for so long, it's one of the reasons he was one of the longer running Bonds, whereas Brosnan only got 4 movies total? And those were the bigger blockbusters too. But Sean Connery did it for longer, did it more consistently. All of his movies have it, whereas Brosnan, too many weak points. Tomorrow Never Dies, I don't want to watch it all. The World Is Not Enough, to be honest, I still kind of don't want to watch it all. GoldenEye, he had one, really. The last one, sure, it has its moments, so 1.5 out of 4, whereas Connery had the consistency, he had the suaveness. For the time, he had it all. Brosnan, like I said, was too derivative of everybody else. First, Connery really paved the way, did it himself, and really he kept going with it. He built the better career off of it and kept going with it.
Time.
Brosnan fizzled out.
Time. All right. We got a Battle of the Bonds. Sounds very familiar. All right. I'm going to go with my first judge. Sean, tell me what you think.
If we're going off volume, Grant definitely had more points. I feel as though the argument got bogged down in the sort of video game conversation, which, admittedly didn't last an extremely long period of time, but I also don't I didn't really see the relevance of that. Also, just looking it up, Sean Connery had 7 Bond films. Pierce Brosnan had 4. Not that much of a difference, and Pierce Brosnan was Bond over a decade. So just in there. I did hear a lot about what made Sean Connery great, but I also heard a lot about why Pierce Brosnan's performance was important. And I think, in addition, the stumbling blocks at the beginning of the argument with Troy really kind of put him on the back foot. For me, I'm gonna have to give the point to Grant.
All right. That is 1 point towards Grant. Caleb, how did you see this match going?
Well, I think that Troy had a really good closing argument, and I think if he had made some of the points that he had made like earlier and more frequently, if he made those points that he made in closing like a little bit earlier and a little bit more frequently, and really hit on that during like the back and forth part or even during his opening, I think this might have been a more competitive match. But I think Grant really took it with his arguments, because everything that Troy threw at him, he was able to kind of turn around and reflect. Like with Troy's argument that Brosnan was too much of everything, Grant was kind of able to throw that back at him and say that, you know, Brosnan was a jack of all trades. He was able to do all these different things, where Connery was just one note. And I don't think Troy ever really responded that much to the one note criticism. So I think Grant won that one.
All right. And the point goes to Grant for this round. So we're going to move on to question number 2, which is, which franchise requires a reboot? And since we started with Troy last round, we're going to start with Grant. Grant, you have 1:30 on the clock. Whenever you're ready to go, it'll start as soon as you start speaking.
All right, franchise that I feel it needs to be rebooted is something that most people might not think about as a decent franchise. I'm talking about the Three Ninjas franchise. So, you know, the crazy kids kicking the crap out of adults, terrible movies. And I think because of the badness of those films, and the fact of the matter is that they were super cheap to do, is the reason why we actually got a franchise. So therefore, according to that, I think this will work. The problem I had with the original ones is everything about them was bad, and they date horribly. So I'm going to reboot this in a modern twist, telling the story of one of the three ninjas as an adult, and the struggles that they're going through. And there's a little bit of a twist that I'll go into in a little bit about it.
All right. And Troy, same way, brother. 1:30 on the clock when you start talking.
I'll try to use it all this time. So I've selected Reanimator, the Reanimator series. For those that aren't familiar, it's a work of H.P. Lovecraft, who is a early 1900s author, sci-fi author. One of the greats, one of the greatest of all time. Some of the greatest now, quoting his influences, Stephen King, Neil Gaiman, one of the earliest, greatest sci-fi authors. Reanimator has to do with reanimating bodies, zombies. It's one of his earlier works. Not really viewed as one of his greatest works, so has some room for improvement. The 1985 movie, camp. It's horror comedy at its finest. It has the scary elements, has the comedy elements, has lots of room for improvement, and that's why it's just needs to be remade, because there's so much room to improve on it. Whether it's the horror and the gore aspect, being able to improve that with today's just obvious way improvements in the 30 years in sci-fi effects and gore they can make, versus the writing, the ability. I think number one, the biggest thing to do is take it more seriously, a little less of the comedy, still have some of the black comedy and horror and elements in it, but toning down the camp a little bit will really allow it to become a great bigger piece of genre, not just the horror genre, but really the horror, which we need more of these days, and especially the horror comedy. Throw into like the Evil Dead, for instance, Ash, like the TV series having a comeback, right market for it.
Time.
Everybody wants the kind of nostalgia factor.
Time. All right, guys.
Sorry, if there was a countdown, I didn't hear it.
It's fine. I just didn't want to interrupt you while you're speaking, so that's why did it a little later. I'll do it a little bit heavier next time. All right. All right, so we're on to the next part of the debate round, which is 5 minutes, and we will kick that off as soon as somebody starts talking.
All right. Well, Reanimator is a classic comedy. You nailed it. It is funny. It's campy. You're trying to redo something that basically it has a 95% Rotten Tomato ring for the first one. As a franchise, it is in the 80% of Rotten Tomatoes, and it's touted as one of the funniest, one of the greatest 80s horror. You want to remake an 80s horror into something that's good? Let's talk about that, because Nightmare on Elm Street, when that was remade in the modern day, that turned out great. Or what are you going to do? You're going to fill it with CGI and zombies? I mean, it seems like a great idea for 2010, but we're talking about doing something in the modern day. This one won't work because it was such a good interpretation of it, even though it might not have been 100% accurate to the original material. It is almost a perfect horror one, while you're basically trying to retread the same story, the same thing over again. I'm going in a completely different direction. My story and everything is about Tum Tum, who was the fat one of the 3 ninjas. All he wanted to do was be a hero, but his weight got in the way. As he grew up, he kept living his glory days. He became a kung fu trainer, had a wife and kids, but his brothers end up dying. He spirals into depression. He loses his wife. He loses his kids. He loses everything. So this is not your kid's story.
We're going off the rails. We're going totally different.
We're going totally different. It's a reboot. We're reinvigorating. We're not doing a remake. This is a reboot. We're revitalizing the franchise.
Now you're just completely changing it. That's not rebooting it. Rebooting it, you keep a similar kind of feel, which itself would have a problem. But that's just crazy. The brothers are dead. You're going to reboot the beloved children's franchise by killing the kids? That's insane.
Yep, that's the way I'm doing it, and that's why it's a reboot. It's a reinterpretation of the story.
That's not a reinterpretation. That's just completely going off the rails. And coming from me arguing Reanimator, I'm saying that's going off the rails.
The 3 ninjas in it comes a part of it, because what happens is he joins up a gym to lose a bit of weight, and he sees they're training obstacles. The obstacles that they're training for is American Ninja Warrior. So we've got American Ninja Warrior meets Cobra Kai. He forms a friendship with a young man who reminds him very much of himself, and it's a story about taking himself out of the dumps that he is to bring it back up to that fun campiness of
campiness after his 2 brothers probably died horribly. No, every
story has an origin. This is his origin as an adult. The original one
that's totally warping it. That's crazy. At least with Reanimator, it's about taking a similar thing, but like I said, making it better. And there's tons of room for improvement. If there's 93% good on Rotten Tomatoes, that means not enough people have seen it. It's not that well known. It can be more well known. There's a scene where a disembodied head attempts to basically rape an unconscious who eventually rapes a woman. Like, that's something obviously you don't do nowadays. That's something you can take out. That's something that has room for improvement. I mean, it was originally related uncut. I think it was actually related X before they cut it down a little bit and moved it to rated R. So it was definitely off the deep end. There's a reason it's a cult hit and not that popular, because it's not something you can air on cable. It's a little crazy, and that's where a lot of the room for improvement comes, is that you can make it more mainstream, more popular. That with the resurgence of popularity in horror movies, I mean, there's one out at any given time nowadays. That's not something they're getting that respect. I mean, it's the combination of having a cult movie that has its own underground respect to be bringing that into the mainstream and getting it the respect with other movies that it can be made.
It's got plenty of people who do reviews that like it and everything. So if they say they like it, then it's obviously well.
There's really not, actually. In research of this, I tried to watch some more reviews to get more points of it. There's really not that much. Even online, I was surprised.
I can't judge
no movie reviewers that I knew that even knew by name that had reviews of it. I had to go pretty deep to find it. It's not well known. It's something.
Bringing it back to your point before, you're saying about it was dark. In the original 3 Ninjas, their father had actually died. So the death of someone in a family is not a new thing. I'm not bringing that out of nowhere. The whole point of the story, it's a redemption story. At the end
I don't remember that. The dad dies?
We'll have to get that fact checked in.
No, they're like I remember in the first one, they're like the ninjas, the crazy ninjas are trying to like blackmail the dad, who's the FBI agent, into something.
Stepdad. Okay, well,
It's
if
like
that's
a
the case,
kind of kooky kids movie, which I was gonna say would have enough problems in the '80s, but this doesn't work because you're just totally warping it. It's not just rebooting
yes,
it, trying to make it
it's
a kids
reboot. That's
movie.
what it is. A reboot is not going to be exactly the same thing.
So what's the overall feel over it? His brothers
Four,
are dead, but he wants to. It's going to be
You're
happy
focusing
again.
you're focusing on one point. It's a redemption
Time.
story.
Time. All right, guys. Whew. This is a heated debate. I like it. Since we started with Grant, we're going to go ahead and start the closing argument this time with Troy. Troy, you got a minute on the clock. Whenever you start talking, good sir.
Like I said, this is about what needs to be rebooted. This is a great cult movie that's a horror comedy that has potential to be brought more into the mainstream, shared with more people, and improved upon. There's lots of bad stuff, like I mentioned, with the head and the attempted rape or the nudity, and it's something that can be straightened out more. The campiness is great, and that's something that can be embraced versus your redemption. I don't even know what he got redeemed by. I'm assuming it was his fault that his brothers died, but that's just not a good way to reboot. You're trying to take what's known as a kids campy franchise that had Hulk Hogan into it and turn it into two of the kids are dead, and it's I still don't quite have an idea of it, but he needs to be redeemed for his dead brothers. I just don't see that working as a reboot of a kids franchise, whereas Reanimator can be brought back in the same feel, the horror comedy, but modified to work better with today's environment.
Time. All right, Grant.
So you're saying a campy 80s thing won't work if it comes back with a little bit more of a grittiness to it. Cobra Kai is a prime example of that. I didn't say he was responsible for the death. You're putting words into the mouth of that. I said it's a redemption arc for himself. I said that he lost his wife and his kids due to his things. He finds an activity that he's doing to build himself up. He finds new friendships. He finds a reason to get out of bed of a morning. He's going through depression. The very first thing I said was depression. You didn't point any points in that. You want to remake a movie that's beloved. You say it's not beloved, but it's beloved. It's out there. People like it. If it wasn't beloved, there wouldn't have been several sequels for it. And remaking stuff that's older in the new, when it especially comes to the horror and comedy, hasn't worked. I mean, because if you want to remake classics, let's look at some examples that really worked. Ben-Hur. Oh wait, that didn't work. Nightmare on Elm Street. Oh wait, that didn't work either. But this one's going to work because there's not going to be a head trying to rape someone. That's your big selling point. There's not going to be as much nudity.
3.
Oh, and yeah, no head rape.
1-0. In time. Caleb, I'm going to you first, man. How do you feel on this?
Hashtag no head rape. I think this was a really good debate. I think both were really getting their points out there, both competitors here. I think they both really hit on reasons why the other one's movie didn't work. I think that, Grant hit on the fact that, Troy's kind of redoing, trying to reboot a movie that's already great. And Troy hit on the fact that, Grant's trying to make a fun, campy movie out of something that's, starts out so dark. So I think they both really hit on each other kind of equally and well. So I'm giving it to who, personally argued for why they had the best, as far as just positively. And I think that Grant had more of, why this one needs a remake and why, and kind of where the story would go and all that. So I'm giving it to Grant on that one.
Okay. All right. 1 point towards Grant. I definitely see where Caleb's going with it, where they both argued why each other's points, why each other's film would not work. But for me, I actually did hear a little bit more from Troy when it came to, why his would be better suited for a reboot. So I'm going to give my point to Troy this round.
I'm on the board. Kind of, almost a little bit. Technically.
Sean, how are you viewing this?
Okay. I felt as though both did a really good job countering each other. Pointing out the flaws in what you perceive to be the direction of Grant's argument and Grant's idea for the film. I think you did a very good job doing that. That being said, I didn't hear enough about Reanimator and how it could be improved. You kept saying it can be improved, but I didn't get enough out of that. I heard about one scene that you could remove, but then I didn't hear enough about what was actually going to happen within the film. With Grant, I got a full idea on what was going to happen in that film. Whether it be good or not, I feel as though the stronger argument comes from the fact that he did counter you when he said, if you're going to try and make something that's a kid's series, dark and sorry, if you're going to try and make a kid's series dark, it's not going to work. And then he hit you back with Cobra Kai. So to me, I think Grant got that point. At least that's my opinion. So I'd go with my vote for Grant.
All right. So Grant is now 2-0. We're going to round 3. And question number 3. Worst performance by Nicole Kidman. And since we started with Grant last round, we're going to start with Troy this round. Again, Troy, you got 90 seconds on the clock when you start talking.
I gotta say, in looking up to choose a movie, I think I realized I've never intentionally watched a Nicole Kidman movie before. So did a little bit of research, and it's The Invasion. I watched this whole movie. It's a lie. I didn't watch the whole movie. I had to skip around because certain scenes were just so bad. She sleepwalks through this whole movie. I don't understand what she's doing most of the time. The accent, I think she's supposed to be Southern. I don't think that they're in Washington, D.C., but I think she's Southern. I don't know. She goes in and out of the accent, and it's light and feathery sometimes, but from the South and not. And I don't know. And this and that. It's inconsistent. It's just bad. Everything she does is bad. The accent is bad. Her alleged emotions are bad. Anytime she has to cry, it's bad. And that's actually like half of what she does. Half of the movie is just her bad crying when weird things happen or walking around. It's every scene she's with is bad. You're supposed to feel connected with her, like when the scenes when she's with the kid, she's in the kid with the car and trying to build rapport, and you're supposed to see the relationship, but it just doesn't work. The kid acts better than her. I don't know. She doesn't connect with anybody. She doesn't connect with the kid. She doesn't connect with Daniel Craig. You're supposed to believe they're best friends, they're possible love interests, but it just doesn't work. She doesn't work with anybody in the movie.
4.
She's worse than the aliens. She seems like she's one of them. She's so bad.
Time. All right, Grant. Minute and 30 on the clock when you start talking.
All right, so Nicole Kidman plays this character called Jade. She's a fun, cool, rocking girl. We know that because we're being told that in the movie Wind Rider. It's a classic for all the wrong reasons. It's bad. I don't want to get into too much in my intro. But she is so plain and wooden and boring in this film. She's supposed to be the fun, the life of it. And all she does is look down, look away, complains. She doesn't talk normally. She's got this blank stare whenever she's not the main focus on camera. It is one of the worst performances from her for a long time. So every time anyone ever says Nicole Kidman is a good actor, I will always point them to this film and a couple of scenes in particular, which I'll get into in a minute, about it. The biggest thing about it is she has no subtlety in this. There's no nuance in the performance with anything. Nothing that she does is for a reason. It's just purely and simply for effect, and that's the reason why I picked this movie.
All right. Left it with 30 seconds on the table. All right, guys, we are moving to the debate round. 5 minutes on the clock when the first person starts talking.
I disagree. I think you picked this movie because you didn't think I could find it, but I found it and I watched it, and you're right, it's a horrible, bad movie. But the one redeeming quality the movie has is Nicole Kidman. She's the best thing about this movie. This movie is the classic 80s laugh at it. It's so bad. It's about a guy that windsurfs, but she's actually great in it. From the first time you sing her, she's dancing and lip syncing. She's like a rock star on stage, and she's 18. She's an 18-year-old rock star, and she does a pretty good job of that. And she shows way better acting in this as an 18-year-old than she does in The Evasion, however many decades later it is. Whether it's like I said, the scene when she's a lead singer, you buy her as the lead singer of that band. When she's working with the bandmates, the lame bandmates behind the stage, whipping them into shape, messing with them, you buy that. When she's working with PC, I remember specifically one of the best scenes after PC gets attacked by the shark. He's being mopey in his house. She comes over to see him, and the range of emotion she goes through with trying to console him, but bring him back around at the same time, but give him tough love. She actually shows a pretty good range of emotion in this movie. I don't know. She's the best thing about it.
Yeah, okay. The best thing about it, the best part about a shit sandwich is the crust. It's still a shit sandwich, so it doesn't matter whether she's the best part of a bad thing. The scene where she gets taken away in the car. She's sitting in the car in the movie, and she gets towed, and she goes, "What are you doing, mate?" Like that. You're talking about a fake accent in that one. She's Australian, putting on a fake Australian accent. She's going to the point where no Australian ever talks about. You talked about in your film. You didn't even watch the movie all the way through. You're going to judge the whole performance on that?
Oh no, I watched it all the way through. I said jumping around a little bit.
You said you couldn't even make it through the way through. These are your words, not mine. I'm going to show you the reason why one scene
the whole movie.
in that film. The reason why it is wrong. The dinner scene where she's talking to her character, Dr. Carol Bennell, is talking to the Russian ambassador, and he's talking about how can you take a pill to make a Russian American, and he's essentially trying to attack her character. There's a moment in there where she's talking where she does a slight raise of the eyebrow and everything, and you go, okay, she knows something. She's got him for something. The aha, got him moment. And she says, when someone starts to tell me the truth, I hear what they are telling me about themselves, not about the world, which gives the ambassador a smirk. She diffuses the situation. The one thing she has in this scene, in this film, compared to Wind Rider, is subtlety. She's learnt the art of pulling back. There is no pulling back
not in that.
And
it's not like she wrote that. That's a bad monologue. It was a good line, but she doesn't deliver it well. It doesn't buy it that she's just saying that off the top of her head. It sounds like she memorized the line. She just delivers the line. Like, I memorized it. I worked on it so hard to memorize this line, exactly what it is, and everyone's gonna applaud at the table after I say this line.
Your accent is way better than hers was in the Australian film. And that's terrible. I said the beginning part of that was her facial expression, her subtlety on it. Then I said the line to give that context. You're focusing on the line, not. I didn't say that the whole line was the reason why she was doing it. I was talking about her actions, her subtlety, her.
She's not subtle at all. The whole back half of The Invasion is about how she's not subtle. All the people keep walking up to her and they're like, "You're sweating." They don't do that. Get the fuck out of here. They're like, "Oh, they're gonna see you smile." Like, she's not subtle at all. She's not believable. She doesn't work in that movie. It's so bad.
Going or anything like that. She's doing the small one. It's enough that people notice. That people go, "Oh, there's something's wrong here."
The only thing she does well in Invasion is play sleepy when she passes out. That's like the only thing she does well is play sleepy. In Wind Rider, she does everything well. She does everything well. She carries that movie. Like you said, people actually like that movie. The only reason is because of her. Nobody else in that movie. It's directed poorly. All the other actors are bad. She is great. She's the only reason that's popular. The Invasion isn't popular at all. It's horrible. Like you said, Wind Rider is at least a good bad movie because you get to see how bad the other stuff is and the windsurfing. But she's actually good. I mean, the scene where they're walking down the pier, she's just negotiating with the fish guy, busting the crab salesman's balls on the price of fish.
So she just memorized the lines and she's saying it. There was no subtlety about it. She was just in his face for the sake of in his face for a scene that didn't require it.
All right, guys, going at it. I like it. All right, so we went with Troy to begin it. We're gonna go with Grant to close it. And Grant, you have a minute when you start talking.
All right. The fact of the matter is, in this film, she's new to acting. Her craft, her acting is bad. You might be able to say you can forgive that, but we're not judging on whether someone forgives or not. Her worst performance is when she was young and green. An Apprentice fixing a car isn't the same as someone who's been doing it their entire life. The quality of the work isn't there. Sure, you as a person might be able to forgive it, but we're judging it based purely and simply on what performance is. Her performance in that was bad. It was over the top. There was no subtlety. There was no nuance. There was no cadence or rhythm to anything that she said. It was over the top. When she's like, "Oh yeah, pigs might fly," when asked out on a date. And looking down, no contact. That's all a physical thing. She had the opportunity when she's not on screen to still act. In the scenes when she's on screen, she's doing something. But as soon as the camera is off her and she's in the background, she's staring off into space. She's blank. Her face goes to the one just resting face. She has to be able to act on screen and when she's slightly on screen. She does.
Time. All right, Troy. Close this out for round 3. As soon as you start talking, you got a minute.
Couldn't disagree with you more on Wind River. That's the exact opposite. She has the pacing and the timing of that. Yeah, you could argue if she's younger, but I wouldn't bother. She's better. She's better in Wind River than she is in Invasion. The jokes where you're talking about where she's rebuffing them when pigs fly, that's the last joke. When they're in the dressing room, she's focused on herself. She's focused on herself, changing, getting ready. She's got shit to do, but she's still talking to him, making the jokes, throwing it back in his face. She has the timing and the pacing in that movie. She doesn't have anything Invasion. It's so flat. It's so unbelievable. In Wind Rider, you believe she's an 18-year-old singer dating a kind of douchey. Is he a bad boy? You don't know. She's kind of into him. She's not. It's way more of a believable performance. She has the joke. She has the timing. She has the pacing. She has the believability. She has the likability. In the Invasion, you almost root for the aliens. You're like, maybe it would be better if they just took her over because she just sucks. In Wind Rider, at least she's there. She's great. She's that movie. She makes it.
All right, guys. All right, so I'll be the first judge to go over this, I guess, and then we'll go to the other judges. So for me, it came down to Troy had a lot of points as to why Wind River wasn't as bad as Invasion. And when given the opportunity, Grant, you chose one scene out to why that she was better. But he destroyed his movie and boosted your movie is what sold me on that. So I'm giving my point to Troy. I meant the performance. Sorry. He boosted the performance, not the movie. Sorry, I misspoke up. All right, so we're going to go ahead and go to Sean.
Before we go to Sean, can I ask one question? Is the movie titled Wind Rider or Wind River?
Wind Rider.
Okay.
Wind River.
Yeah,
Really?
that's what I thought. Wind River's the one with Jeremy Renner, and I was a little
He
bit
rides the wind.
like Doug called it Wind River, so I got a little confused.
Oh, sorry.
It's tough. I want.
Go
I
into
think
Sean.
Troy also called it Wind River, so it's all right.
Sean, how do you see this?
I actually agree with you, to be honest with you. I do think that Troy hit on a lot of different moments that actually, at least just based on the arguments, made Nicole Kidman's performance in Wind Rider seem a lot better. Grant did focus on that one specific scene in order to say why the performance was better in the Invasion. But yeah, I would have to agree with you. I do think that Troy got him.
All right, Caleb, you don't. Yeah, it really doesn't matter at this point. Troy is getting the point. All right, so we are making it to the speed round, and how the speed round works is the first round of the speed round is 30 seconds openers and 15-second rebuttals. It's gonna be basically I'm gonna give you two options. The first person to say it is the first person to go, and we'll see how we go from there. With Detective Pikachu coming out and the debate of video game movies starting to come back to the forefront, which franchise deserves a film first? God of War or Legend of Zelda?
God of War.
All right. Troy, you said the answer first. And Grant, you have Legend of Zelda. So Troy, you're going to have 30 seconds as soon as you start talking.
God of War really lends itself to its better. It's more epic of a tale. It's more movie-like of a tale. Legend of Zelda, there's just too much behind it. Too much that could go wrong. God of War would be much easier path to take to greatness. The story of Kratos, whether you start from the beginning or if you just want to do something like the later movie with him and the son, really the storytelling in that is just
Time.
is going to be a far better movie.
Time. All right, Grant. Legend of Zelda. It's on you. 30 seconds when you start talking.
Well, if there ever was a Nintendo cinematic universe, you have Zelda in it. Zelda does not just lead itself to one sort of thing. It has one of the biggest world-building things in there. Plus, it has time travel in it. It's got princesses. It's got castles. It's got strong females. This is the ultimate package for a movie. And the fact of the matter is that God of War is already very cinematic. So basically, you're just going to essentially retread stuff that we've already seen, but better because it's a game and it's interactive.
All right. And we'll go ahead and go with... there we go. We'll go with Troy for 15 seconds rebuttal and closing. As soon as you start talking.
Sure, Legend of Zelda has all the options, but you're not going to have time travel and castles and all that. It focuses on Link. It's about Link. It's about a silent protagonist, whereas God of War, like I said, is already more cinematic. It's going to be a big story. Kratos, like I said, whether you go with the son or whether you go with the revenge tale, is going to be...
Time. All right.
You stated that it was going to be an easier path, which means it's going to be a better film because everyone knows an easy film to make is definitely always going to be a better one. The lore with Zelda and Link and everything is so much more. It lends itself to more. It hasn't been done. There's nothing cinematic. It's the most open to interpretation that anyone can give.
All right. Boy, am I glad that I don't have to go first. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and go to Sean first. How are you viewing this, Sean?
I got to give the point to Grant. It being the ultimate package, the world building, the fact that time travel is involved, and not just that, but there's also so many different multifaceted elements to Zelda. And on top of that, it being the most open to interpretation, I felt as though that was a lot stronger of an argument than the easier path. And when he hit him with easy doesn't mean that it's going to be better. That to me was like the final blow that needed to end the path.
All right. Caleb, are you ending this, or are we going to a third speed round, or what are we doing? You had send it to me, or what are we doing?
It was a very competitive speed round up until I think Sean hit the nail on the head. Grant dealt that final blow with easier doesn't mean better. I think Troy made some good points, but I think Grant both really hit on God of War and kind of gave us why Zelda would be a good movie, where Troy only really gave that Link is a silent protagonist as to why Zelda would not be a great movie.
So Grant did win 3-1 in the speed round. So let's get some interviews under the way. Let's go with the winner first. Grant, how you feeling? And how you feeling with this battle?
Oh, I feel like I've been beaten up underwater. It is intense because I feel like I get very into it, and it's hard to really do it when you don't have animosity against the person that you're trying to debate. But no, I thoroughly enjoyed it. The one round that I felt the most confident in is the one that I lost. So it just goes to show you that all it takes is a few words here and there to make the difference. And I think in the end, that's what it came down to.
All right, Grant, heck of a job tonight. Troy, how you feeling, man? I definitely don't want to see your head down. I mean, you put up a good fight, man.
Yeah, feeling better now than I did at the beginning. Obviously, I think I suffered from going first in the question order because the bond round, I was kind of relying more on my past knowledge. I didn't do any studying up on that, whereas as I studied the other two questions more heavily, felt a lot more confident in those. And maybe I made a mistake by picking the game I didn't know so well in the speed round question, but I just didn't see Zelda work. And I agree, easier doesn't mean better. I agree with that, okay? That's not. I don't disagree with that. Doesn't mean anything. But I'm all right.
All right, Troy, it was a pleasure.
If I could slam this down in anger, ah!
All right, let's.
Is that better? Is that the drama we need?
That's the drama. That is the drama we need. Sean, how you feeling on this match? Good sir.
I was really impressed with Troy actually, because as we said, there was a little bit of stumbling at the beginning, but then he made the analogy of bowling, where he needs a little bit to get going, and I think that the more his confidence ended up building, I think the better that he ended up doing, and I was very, very impressed by the way that he was able to argue. And as someone who has argued with Grant before on multiple occasions,
No, we haven't.
yeah, but I can tell you it's not easy. So, yeah, believe me, I've lost more arguments to Grant than I've won. So believe me.
Hey, we got something in common.
Yeah, trust me on this, except you've got way less that you've lost to him than me. So, but yeah, I know it's a challenging thing, and so I don't want this to be the last time that we see you, because I really do think that, like, with maybe a little bit more prep time and whatnot, I think that you could be a serious threat. So
I like yelling at people.
And-
I really should have just joined the Trivia League. That's what I've been scared to join, and that's really more where my strength is knowledge.
That makes two of us. And like I said, Grant's the man. So
Hey, he seems
I've
alright.
argued against him before. It sucks.
I've been called worse.
All right, Caleb. How
What does he got there? A victory bowl of Fruit Loops?
Beans.
Victory beans. Okay.
Victory beans.
All right. Now we got animosity.
All right, Caleb. How you feeling on this match?
Well, it was a good fight. Grant deserves his victory beans because he fought really well, but Troy has nothing to hang his head about. I think he
Maybe
did
the first
stumble.
round. Probably the first round. Yeah.
Yeah, first round, I think he stumbles a little bit, but I think he, much like the robot in The Incredibles, he gets better every time he loses. So any 0-1 competitors out there, you should be scared, because if you're placed up against Troy, it's not going to be an easy road. I can't wait to see him back, and I can't wait to see who Grant plays next. As somebody who's up there in the rankings a little bit, I hope I can kind of avoid having to face Grant, because that's going to be a hard battle.
All right. So I thoroughly enjoyed this entire match. For Troy, Grant, Sean, Caleb, and myself, you guys have a great night.